it doesn't matter how somebody goes. It's that they're gone. And then it's starting to pick up the pieces and how do you move forward? I had to go to work the day my dad died, right? The truck had to get loaded. Our customers had to be served. There's a lot of people I had to talk to down there and let them know what was going on. I'm not.
What did they tell you at that time? Like, why are you here? Get out of here. Let us take over for you.
Well, no. Our employees at the time and the other business owners down there knew why I was there. If they were in the position, they'd have to do the same thing. I'm not a special case. I don't need a pat on the back for what I had to do that day. It's your responsibility. The show goes on no matter what's going on in your personal life.
All right, we're live. Jim Graziano, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me.
Long-time fan, first-time caller.
Much appreciated. I'm a fan of yours as well. I've kept an eye on your work for quite a while.
Awesome, thank you.
I really like the style in which you do things. I find the subjects that you get to open up are very interesting. And I enjoy stories myself, as we were just briefly talking about, and I'd love to be able to tell ours. I'm very proud of it. And so it's a mutual feeling. Thank you for having me.
Appreciate that.
Absolutely.
At the in the busy, bustling part of where you're at on Randolph, there's a sense of nostalgia in what seems to be an always evolving part of the city. For nightlife and hospitality, hotels. And I think you guys do a great job at striking that balance of holding on to that traditional nostalgia as well as keeping up with the times. And you've shared your story several times before, but I've personally never really heard it. And on a weekly basis, I probably get an Italian sub multiple times. If I lived or worked closer to JP's would be the spot.
I appreciate that.
Because but parking's tough around JP's.
Nearly impossible.
I see people double parking all the time.
You
and,
have to.
So like at the moment, it's probably, I probably hit up Fontano's more and then Conti's. And then I miss, from time to time, Barry's as well. But JP's. Do you feel like at this point, JP's has made it, or do you feel like people are still sleeping on JP's? Are you still the underdog?
That's a good question. We have definitely arrived at some point, right? With the entrepreneurial spirit that's been passed down to me, I don't care how big or far or wide-reaching you get. I don't, what has made it look like, right? Do a lot of people know about us? Absolutely. Do more people probably not know about us than do? Absolutely. It's an enormous city. And when you pull in Chicagoland, which is outside of Chicago proper, even more so. I'm blown away by where we have started to where we have gotten. And the recognition along the way blows my doors off every time. We just got the Chicago Reader fan poll vote best sandwich in the city. To say you're humbled by it, I don't even think it does that full justice.
Right.
How many times do people take time out of their day to vote on an online poll? So when people kind of go out of their way to express their love to you, in that way, it has a pretty deep effect on you. And, I can get lost in the hustle and bustle of it kind of every day, and you're just selling sandwiches. But we always look to provide a little bit more than just be a place to grab lunch and grab a sandwich. I was brought up in this business, and every customer we had, whether it was a walk-in customer or a wholesale customer on the street, the personal relationship that you have with your customers is the most important part, right? I love when we're complimented on our service. I love when we get complimented on our service when I'm not even there. And my crew that runs, does the real hard work day to day, of course, led by my sister Deanna especially when I'm not around. Those guys get it. They understand that that's the most important part. You can go thousands of spots, and probably more than that for a sandwich. And then you can go to a couple 100,000 spots for lunch anywhere in the city.
Right.
And a lot of people choose us. And why do they choose you? And we make a delicious sandwich, absolutely. But when you walk in our door, I hope the feeling is, as you described, you get that slice of nostalgia that this place has been around for a long time. They really put an emphasis on service to their customer and the appreciation back. You know, my dad would tell me they thought of you first. They're getting ready in the morning. They're, getting dressed, combing their hair, looking in the mirror, whatever. And I'm going to go to JP Graziano's, popped into their head. They walk in your door to support you and your family. You're going to get my full appreciation and attention when you walk in my door. You chose us. And so you give that back to them. Did I answer the question? I'm sure sometimes I go, yeah.
Because my next question was, what would you want people to expect when they think of JP's, right? And it's kind of associated with either a logo or a brand. And when you think of said brand or any brand, there's an expectation tied to it.
Yep.
And it seems like you've met and exceeded those expectations.
We try to, and I appreciate that. I mean, that's the goal. I think I'm looking for a feeling, and maybe one of those indescribable, like it just makes you feel good when you walk in the door. Mm-hmm. One of the first things you said of, Randolph Street, right? 2024 Randolph Street, Nobu Hotel, every big restaurant in the world, a lot of corporations coming in now, and we're able to survive. And the hardest part of my job over the last 16 years of doing this on my own, and that doesn't take away from anybody, obviously my sister, but I'm saying like our father passed 15 years ago, and it was one day there, one day gone, and it was from there on out that I've just kind of threw this on my shoulders and tried to march forward. Is how do you balance in what's soon to be an 87-year-old business with doing business today? And it's a fine line to walk, because you can't turn your back on what has made you what you are, right? Even down to the products that you offer. And if a older lady comes in our store, has been shopping there since her mother or grandmother took her in, I want her to feel like this is still Graziano's. And to the 25-year-old kid that just moved in down the block, he's got to be able to order off of his cell phone that he's used to. Right. So how do you balance all that? I don't know if I have. I'm not done with that answer. But every day that weighs heavily on me. How do you march forward, grow, expand, take care of your people, and never lose the roots of what you are?
So would Grandma be hanging out in the shop?
Say that again.
Would Grandma be hanging out in the shop?
Mine?
Yeah.
Any of them?
Back in the day,
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. It was more the fraternal side of things, right? Great-grandpa, my grandpa, my Uncle Paul, my father, my Uncle Larry.
Yeah.
When it got down to the third generation, my uncles, my dad's sister, my auntie and Lee, and my mom, all four of them kind of worked there together for quite a while after like my grandpa had passed away and stuff like that. So I'm just saying, so in the sense of somebody who's been shopping there for a long time,
Gotcha.
When they walk in, that identity is never left, even though I've changed so much.
Right.
And I think that's why I hold on to the interior look and feel of that store. I know how I want to feel when I walk in there. I know how it was to feel in there in 1988. And I want that feeling for somebody who's walked in for the first time.
Yeah.
All the way somebody who's been, could be a third, fourth, fifth generational customer of ours.
For someone who's never stepped foot, can you describe some of the aesthetics, whether it's a color palette, whether it's the sounds or the smells? I hear it smells like meat. Good meat.
Right.
Deli meat, right? Like prosciutto and capicola, salami.
Yeah.
And what are some of those aesthetics?
Yeah. So visually when you walk in, it's the exposed steel beams, wooden beams. Our building it was overbuilt at some point. Somebody had told me this building was either like 8 or 9 stories high and there was a fire, or the original intent was to build it that high, and for some reason they capped it off at 3.
Oh, okay.
So if you look at our building compared to the other buildings in that area, the beams that we have are incredibly huge.
They were meant to support a bigger
Absolutely.
building. Okay.
No way. It's only supposed to be 2 stories.
And on that topic, it used to be a very industrial warehouse corridor.
The entire neighborhood.
Yeah.
Randolph, Lake Street, Fulton, from Halstead to Ogden. up
Yeah.
and down Restaurant
So
Supply.
the bustlingness of it is still relatively young. Would you say 80s or
back in the day, it was banging.
it
I
was
mean,
banging. Okay.
insane. But it was all semis, forklifts,
Right,
jobbers in and out. There was no strollers. There was no dogs being walked around. There was none of that. And it was also from the wee hours of 2 a.m. when the fruit and vegetable guys would get going, or the fishmongers or butchers. We used to open up at 7 o'clock in the morning. We were considered like the ones that opened up late in the time frame of that neighborhood. And then at 4 o'clock we would close. We'd also be some of the last ones to close. And when you left at 4 o'clock or 3:30, you could shoot a cannon down Randolph Street and you wouldn't hit a thing. I mean, that neighborhood was there for that market. And before or after it did not exist until everybody kind of woke up and got back to work. And I saw that, Fulton Market, they live kills. And you'd walk up and down Fulton Market and blood-stained smocks head to toe. The aroma coming off of that street in the middle of summer, man, oh man. And I remember when people actually started to live down there and they'd be like, God, it's so loud and stinky. And you know what I mean? And my father would be like, you didn't tour the place you bought with the blindfold on. It's like, this is what, this is our neighborhood. This is what we do. And it was filled with that. Restaurant Supply, dry goods like us.
Were people complaining of, not really, actually, probably not. I was going to say gentrification of that area, but people weren't really living there prior. It was more of a working corridor, right?
Yeah. And the first people to move in were like, I don't want to say starving artists in a negative term, but people who are looking for loft space, come as you go, do as you please, whatever they were doing up in those lofts. And they weren't like put together and nice and up to code, I'm sure. It was just people looking for a cheap spot. That's what it was,
Wow.
So when things started to change over, all the original guys had gone, but I'm always happy to report that, 99% of them left very happy. Right?
Okay.
Because when you own the business there, 9 times out of 10, you owned the building as well because it was such a cheap piece of property. It wasn't a desirable neighborhood. If you weren't in that industry, you weren't looking for that type of property down there. And when people started to move in, it was just an extension of that, right?
Okay.
When the big stuff started to come in, we're knocking down a building and we're building a high-rise or something like that. The people who owned that property for probably 20, 30, 40 years at that time left with a nice
penny.
bag.
Yeah,
They did it, And some of them, that was enough to be done, and other people relocated or moved out to the burbs or whatever. Very small instances, there was people who didn't own the building and, unfortunately got squeezed out because of development. And that's hard to see. Somebody's dedicated their life to that neighborhood, as you have to.
Yeah.
But if you talk to those people, faults on them for not grabbing the opportunity, grabbing a property somewhere along the way as well.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
it couldn't be more different than what I grew up with. Couldn't be more different. But the heart, I feel, is still there, though the face has changed, because the people who did come in, probably originally led by like the Boca Group, Kevin and Rob, One Off Hospitality, Dottie and Paul, Brandon with Hog Salt. Those people came in and planted the big flags in that neighborhood. And, I met them all. I've talked to them all. I know them all personally now. Nobody came in with this ego of, we're going to take over and
That's
this
nice
is
to hear.
ours. It is nice to hear because it could have gone the other way very quickly. And I think more times than not it does. But they understood, this is a neighborhood. This isn't, let's not turn this into a flash of a pan and be the next hottest thing. And then in 2 years, everybody forgets about it. I got to observe that working relationship between businesses and business owners at a very early age. About 8 years old is when I started going down there. And if people were your direct competition or indirect competition, you worked together. This guy ran out of a 50-pound bale of Sarasota flour and needed to take care of his customer, send it over. Or send your guy over and I'll give it to him and then we'll bill you. And, as my father again would say, one hand wash the other, both hands wash the face. It's a sustainable future.
I've never heard that before.
It's a good one.
Say one more time.
One hand washes the other. That's usually where it stops.
So like this?
Yeah, and then both hands wash the face. You take care of me, I take care of you, we take care of each other, and that's how we move forward. That's how I was taught to do business. Because you leaned on your neighbors. You needed them. They needed you. And if everybody was doing, if the fruit and vegetable guy across the street was doing well, and the fish house on Halstead and Fulton was doing well, you know, and the meat packer down on Fulton was doing well, you were doing well as with them, right? And that's a sustainable scenario for everybody. And thankfully, those big restaurant groupers that came in, and the developers, Shea Pack, and, you know, the host of other ones that aren't Sterling Bay, you know, they all came in kind of with the same intention. It wasn't to knock down everything was there and like start a new beginning. It was, let's pay homage to, you know, this is one of the neighborhoods that built this city on some pretty broad shoulders, and let's emphasize it. Let's not sweep it under the rug, you know? So I think that's why we're able to stay relevant and competitive, you know, with every new spot that opens up. I think a brighter light gets shined on us as well, because it's like, hey, and these guys, you know, this is how they used to do it, and they're still rolling, and everybody's cool with each other, man.
Yeah.
You know, food's a good way to make friends.
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? So, and one of our benefits has been through this whole development is that we're able to ride kind of the whole wave of it, right? Because I'll start feeding the construction guys and the demo guys day one of their job, roll with those guys for 2.5 years, however long that may take, right? So I'm getting front row customers right away.
Yeah.
And then whatever they built, we sell those people sandwiches at some point as well. And, you know, 9 out of 10 times I show up day one with a couple trays of sandwiches and welcome you to the area. And I feel like I'm the unofficial, you know, welcome wagon to that neighborhood with how long
like
we've
that.
been down there. And it's genuine. It's genuine. I don't care if a sandwich shop up across the street from me, man. They're going to get a tray of sandwiches. I'm going to welcome them to the neighborhood.
Oh, wow.
Right? We've, for a year and a half, I was the only person who was selling lunch on that street with when we started. And now every single place does. Tacombe just opened up behind us.
I haven't heard of that one.
We're great friends. We're actually, not sure when this is airing, but this week we're doing a collaboration together. You know, we welcome them with
That's
sandwiches.
another thing you're known
to
for
their
is
crew.
collaborations.
Yeah, it became like that. But, you know, I got to know them really well during construction. Even the construction guys we were super cool with. Their management team, their employees started coming in. We set them up with lunch. Eventually their chef came in, gave them a couple products. They worked with it. And now they're doing an Italian beef taco with our hot jardinera starting today all month. You might want to get over for it.
Oh, wait.
It's
It's a taco joint?
Yeah,
Oh,
Tacombe.
I've been there. I
Yeah,
think
and it's
I've
a
been
nationwide. I mean, they're in
there. Huge doors that open up?
Yeah.
Okay, I've been
Yeah,
there.
that was a truck loading dock. And I don't know. I still don't know how they turned an old loading dock into what
It's
they did.
nice in there. Yeah, food's good.
So cool.
That's cool.
And great people. And we're happy to work with them. And I'm happy to have them as neighbors. And all they do, and fill in the blank of anybody before them or after them, is they bring more, you know, people to your neighborhood, more eyes on what you're doing.
Right.
And eventually they're going to walk in your door, and then it's your turn to kind of set the hook and become a customer. You're not going to eat a sandwich every day. You're not going to eat a salad or a taco every day.
The variety on
You
Randolph
catch people in that
is
rotation,
great.
though.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yes.
You know, it needs to be.
Yeah.
It needs to be. So, and it, you know, it makes you sharper, and it makes you working harder, and it makes you paying attention to everything.
Yeah.
Right? So it's,
Yeah, competition's healthy.
it is. Keeps you rolling.
But like you guys weren't always selling sandwiches.
No.
Is that to me that seems a little backwards in the sense of starting in wholesale, but maybe that's how it was back in the day of like it was easier to become an importer, distributor, wholesaler back in the day.
Yeah, that one we'd have to talk to Great Grandpa about. I'm sure there wasn't many easy points of what he did, but it was just the neighborhood, right? And a lot of people, you can kind of tell when people know the full, and I'm not trying to call anybody out here, but like, you know, there are people that maybe have never been to my shop and meet me or see me or whatever. And they're like, oh, I've been getting sandwiches there since I was a kid. My grandpa used to take me there. And it's like, they know you've been there for a long time, but they don't really know you haven't been doing sandwiches from day one. So, you know, that happens a bit, but sandwiches started as a necessity of, I graduated college. I got into the business. Wasn't my original plan.
Yeah,
To pursue as a
so what it was DePaul for poli sci and then
Yeah.
pre-law.
Well, we never got to pre-law. That was the intention. I mean, I'm sure I could have.
But even were you and this is something I personally did not do, is like, were you thinking about stuff like that in high school, like before college? Like of what you
About what I wanna
might
be?
want to do and things like that, or even what your interests were?
I want to be a lawyer. I think that's a pretty easy sentence to roll off of people's tongues. It sounds cool.
Was there an aspect of law that kind of appealed to you?
I like contract stuff.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I like getting two people together over a lease or a contract.
Sure.
And, when you realize those things, anything could be written into those things if you get two people to agree to it, and you have to follow some legal forms and stuff like that. That has piqued my interest, and maybe because I went through what I went through over the last number of years of turning that place around and putting in a tenant next door. And I don't know if that would have been my original pick, but
As far as career, as far as attorney?
If we got into a specialized field of it, I went in pretty basic, like, poli-sci, you can kind of get a broad aspect of everything, and then that would naturally lead into, getting into law school and stuff like that. But, a year and a half in, 2 years in, I quickly realized that what I want to do is stay into the family business.
Right.
And that I got to make that choice all on my own because I wasn't forced into it by my father.
Yeah.
Was a very integral part of, I think, me finding that for myself and then knowing it's right,
And then kind of coming back full circle.
Yeah. And there wasn't one,
Which wasn't the case for your dad.
oh, no, this is what you're going to do the rest of your life, you like it or not.
Has he talked about what he would have done had he not been forced? Or did he come to love it? Because, like, what are your thoughts on, like, passion and things like that? It's like some
Right.
people think, and I initially had this thought too of like being born and you have to take the time to discover your passion. Whereas, like, I think one can be passionate, and it's like it comes from a culmination of ingredients in your current space. Whether it's like the opportunity to be creative, to lead, do your decisions matter? Like, do people
Right.
listen to you?
Right.
It could be on a selfless, like, is there a generous component to it? Are you kind of giving back in some way? Are you doing something that you enjoy? It's a Japanese term called ikigai. Is it something that you're good at, right? Sometimes those two don't even line up.
Right.
That's kind of my take on it at the moment, but what was your take? Do you feel like your dad had any regrets, or did he come around to loving what he actually did?
Yeah, my dad loved the store.
Yeah.
I don't want to mince those words whatsoever. My dad, that store was my father with all his being. My dad loved to talk. That's probably where I got it from. My dad loved to talk. My dad loved to take care of people and help people out. My dad worked part-time as a Cook County sheriff almost the entire time he was at the store. And he
So
would just
full-time store, part-time sheriff.
Yeah,
That's
weekend
amazing.
warriors, they called him.
Okay.
Like he just worked on Sundays. 26 in Cal.
Well, okay.
Not far.
Yeah.
Security for Bears games.
Nice.
Soldier Field.
Monterey?
Monterey.
Was it
Predating Monterey.
Pre-Monterey.
Yeah.
I used to, so as an EMT, we used
This
to...
was in late 70s, early 80s.
Okay.
Yeah.
I used to, they had a county contract, the ambulance did, and they would take inmates out of 26 in California.
Okay. Yeah, I think Monterey was the one that replaced them. I forget. It was, yellow jacket instead of the red jacket type of guys.
Okay.
But, high-fiving Walter Payton when I was a kid and Steve McMichael. And, it's incredible. So, yeah, my dad loved it, absolutely. And, if God, I wish he was here to sit down and talk to him as well and ask him. But he was a creative guy. My dad did he did hairstyling and stuff, and he would do women's hairs for fashion shows, like half dyed red, half dyed white, put together.
What?
Yeah, and he didn't talk about it much. My older sisters would probably know a little bit more than me, but my dad had a creative flair in him for sure. But he liked serving people. Guy could talk to you for hours, and
Is he first gen or are you first gen?
No, my father was second generation.
Second gen.
Yeah.
Okay.
When my great-grandpa
is that,
left,
is that
that was
defined by someone who was born here?
To me, it does.
Yeah. So okay. So his father was born here.
Right.
Ah.
Yeah.
Okay.
My great grandpa at one point had to leave Sicily and not go back.
Okay.
It's a whole nother podcast. But my grandpa, my uncle Paul, they were all born here. My father was born here. I consider myself very American.
Okay.
Very American, with deep, strong cultural, ethnic roots.
Yeah.
By the form of usually out of the kitchen, and maybe how you conduct yourself. but I'm an American as it gets, man, you know. And I'm totally fine with that. I love it. But I'm proud of our history and what's been passed down to us. My father did not get that choice. It was very sternly and directly told to him, this is what you got. But that's what forced my dad to treat us as he did.
He broke the cycle.
He broke the cycle. Yeah. I don't think he gave himself enough credit for it.
Yeah. Well,
but
did they have the luxury of thinking about that stuff?
I don't think so.
Right.
I don't think that generation even thought like that, right? But now you can go do what you want, but when you're 8 years old, your ass is coming down to the store, and you are putting cases away on the shelf.
I mean, daycare's
right. 9 years old, I know how to unload a semi with a forklift with no help from anybody. You're gonna learn where this all comes from, where his words. And if people don't walk through that door, we don't put shoes on our feet. All those very important life lessons that sound outrageous when you're a kid, and I would nearly roll my eyes out of my head about it. But then you get to grow up and provide for your family. And I tell my kids, if people don't jump on tasterealchicago.com, we don't put shoes on our feet. But it's true. Those simple, cliche sounding, direct kind of quotes always were the most real words ever spoken to me. And it doesn't make sense until you're older. But when it hits hard, man. And it keeps you kind of grounded and basic of just like what's the most important part of what we're doing. And but he afforded us the opportunity. Go find what you're going to have a base. You're going to learn all this. You're going to have to learn how important all this is and where everything comes from. Every shirt you've ever put on your back is because of our customers. But go find what you love, and I'll pay for your education, and you got all my support. And then, I find my calling kind of halfway through and still don't even have the words for why, just like that magnetic pull of like, this is where I should be. And when I told my dad, he was ecstatic, obviously, but especially because I made that choice on my own.
What would he have done? I mean, who would fill that void as far as passing it down?
And I don't mean to sound like that, but there was there wasn't that next generation.
So what about your sister?
They're both older than me. Okay. And my sister Deanna had a career until, she came in to help out when my dad passed away.
Oh, okay.
For a couple weeks.
Gotcha.
Fast forward 15 and a half years later. And, she runs the show and a lot of things day to day, right? So maybe she found hers as well through all that. We got there in different ways. And my middle sister, Krista, who doesn't work there, but we all have a great relationship, and she's like, the biggest social media fan of that has the store, and all her friends know about everything that we're doing, and she's the best. We grew up because of that place, right? Yeah. So if you're there every day or not, you're still always rooting for it, right? It's the store. To me, it was always like a proper noun, the store. Yeah, we didn't call it JP's or JP. It was the store. Right. This is what we do. This is who we are. And, your dad might sell cars for a living. My dad sells forms of cheese. And I thought it was normal. I thought everybody's dad owned a place. I thought that's what work was, you know. So it meant a lot to me that I found it on my own.
So you describe it as like this magnetic pull. If you were to try to put some aspects or some adjectives or particulars of the store that lured you back in, I can guess that it's the people, but is there anything else about the work? I think having yourself to hold accountable. I like that. I'll complain about it. So you have wife, this entrepreneurial bug?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I guess that's what, I don't know if I would have named it that then, but I think getting past it and looking kind of back at it, I like the challenge. I like when there's a fire under my ass. I like when there's a problem to figure out. It drives me nuts. And like I said, you could ask my wife and she'll tell you how much it eats me up. But I feel like that's the purpose. That's how you grow. You don't, you can't get better unless you get uncomfortable first. You don't, there's nothing that I've made a million mistakes, believe me, a million mistakes. I never look at one as a failure, just an opportunity to get better. And how do you refine it? And, tell me I can't do something. Watch me do it. I don't know,
like that.
but that's what gets me up in the morning.
Does
man.
but on a consistent basis, does that come from inside or some of these external factors?
I think
that
it starts
motivation?
inside, and then it kind of carries you through about what you start to see as that comes together, and how those building blocks come into place.
And then you build momentum.
And then you experience some success off of it, and you quickly realize, man, don't hang your hat on yesterday's success because
it starts all over again.
it's gone.
Yeah.
It's gone. Like that Chicago Reader thing. Best sandwich in Chicago. Man, that feels good. Next morning, you haven't sold one sandwich, man. You better get your ass to work. You better hope that phone rings off the wall. You better hope that email ping is going all day long. You better hope that door falls off the hinges.
Yeah.
Because it could change quick. I've watched it happen.
Did your dad, with all the jobs that he worked as a weekend warrior, but it sounded like, I mean, it's you getting to meet, McMahon. Did he associate his identity with work a lot?
So, yeah. That it embodied him.
And was there a lot of overlap with work and family time? Especially with a small business, like a store, come help out at the store, and you're kind of trying to blend a lot of things together.
Right. It did, but again, our days and hours allowed him, even though he owned his own business, worked downtown, ripping and running all the time, they were done at 3:30, 3 o'clock. I think it was 7 to 3 p.m. So he was my baseball coach. He was my hockey coach.
Wow.
Yeah. I got the best of kind of both worlds. I'd have said that when I was 10, when he was screaming at me in a baseball dugout, but you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
It didn't, it was his identity. Everybody knew my father because of that place. I mean, his nickname was like Cheese Man or, Mr. G.
That reminds me of Joe Glorioso. Joey G's.
Joey G's, right. It kind of becomes what you are and how you're known.
That's amazing.
But he was, there was a lot of times he was just dad. Yeah. And there was a lot of times he was my coach.
Yeah.
So it was.
So he did his best.
He did incredible. Yeah, he did. Yeah.
And you said he peacefully passed away in his sleep.
He did. Man, yeah. It feels like a long time ago now.
Yeah.
It was his 63rd birthday.
Oh, wow.
That was a rough one. It was a Tuesday.
That's always the hardest when it's so sudden.
It's always hard. Finality is what's hard, right? If you, because if you have to watch somebody waste away in a hospital, I don't think anybody would describe that as easy.
No.
Somebody's there one day and gone the next. Absolutely not easy. It's the finality that's hard.
Yeah.
That it's once it's done forever. And, I've gotten to a point in my life, and I don't mean to sound heartless, but it doesn't matter how somebody goes. It's that they're gone. And then it's starting to pick up the pieces, and how do you move forward? I had to go to work the day my dad died, right? Mm-hmm. The truck had to get loaded. Our customers had to be served.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people I had to talk to down there and let them know what was going on. I'm not.
What did they tell you at that time? You're like, why are you here? Get out of here. Let us take over for you.
Well, no. Our employees at the time and the other business owners down there knew why I was there. If they were in the position, they'd have to do the same thing. I'm not a special case. I don't need a pat on the back for what I had to do that day. It's your responsibility. The show goes on no matter what's going on in your personal life. It's just how you are as a person, I think, at that point. So, you got to pull yourself together, and then, the services and stuff for the rest of the week. And then Monday morning, bills don't care that your dad died, right? People you owe money to, they care a little bit that your dad died, but you're still going to have to pay, you got to keep rolling.
And you don't think about these things until they're actually in front of you.
No, and don't. You'll figure it out at that point. But you have the support system. Great friends, still till today, drove me down there. Guy went through a similar situation with his father, and, you find that support system, right? And then not long after my father passed, that's when I met who I eventually married.
Oh,
right?
Okay.
So feel like I was given that one as a little, parting, this person's going to help you out and take care of you.
Yeah.
So,
When I what I meant about the suddenness is like when someone receives, let's say, a cancer diagnosis and maybe a certain amount of time left, you have kind of an expectation of like, this is how much time you have to set your affairs in order and
Sure.
say any last things you want to say.
Sure.
And the suddenness it just compiles on top of the finality of death.
Yeah.
And is there anything that you might have said at the service or maybe to mom or your siblings to let go of some of that weight or some of the things that you might have said to dad if you had the chance? Because it helps to talk it out, right? It helps to...
It does. And, everybody deals with something in their own way. And it's... and there's and I always try to be that kind of voice for somebody who's lost very close, right?
Yeah.
To kind of like, and you tell them this early on and it doesn't, believe me, it doesn't even make sense when you first say it to anybody. Like, you'll find it and you get there and don't hesitate about talking about them. If you're having a good day, it's okay to laugh. If you're having a shitty day, it's okay to bury your head in a pillow and cry too. However your process is going to be, don't suppress anything. Let it out because it's part of it, right? What would I tell my dad? Thank you. He didn't give himself a lot of credit. He didn't have like a lot of education, formal education. Business was tough for him. It wasn't an innovator, really. Follow direction, run a plan through, work harder than anybody. But I think the lack of innovation within the store wasn't because my dad wasn't smart. It was because the generation before him would suppress that. We don't need your thoughts. We don't need to know how to do anything else. Do what we do, say what we say, pick up that case and put it on the truck. Real old school way of thinking, So then when that generation dies off and you're left and you're been told your whole life, say what we say, do what we say, your business doesn't change. But time marches on and everything around your business changes. And then you look up and you've gotten passed by. And that's when I came into the business, right about all that time, kind of coming to a point. And that was the first time I looked through the books in my life, and I was like, what did I get myself into here?
Yeah.
What did I...
You thought it was better than it was.
Should have been a lawyer. Your parents protect you. They make you feel like everything's okay. That's part of their job, right? So... And we didn't live any kind of like crazy extravagant life, but I went to DePaul. I didn't pay for it myself.
Yeah.
Mom and Dad took care of it. Well, I didn't realize really how hard that was, But that's good parenting. Take away that scary feeling.
It's not your job to worry.
Yeah. Right. Put it on my shoulders. Don't put it on your shoulders. So I would tell my dad how proud I am of him.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
That's all he ever said to me.
Yeah, in previous episodes, I've reflected on as much as the kids want to be seen by their parents, the parents want to be seen by their kiddos.
Yeah, it's something, Like I'm a father to two young children, along with my wife, and 11 and 7. So it's like they're starting to see stuff and figure stuff out, and the full protection of being a little kid is starting to wear off a little bit, right? And somebody had told me, somebody a lot smarter than me, it said something like everybody goes through those cycles with their parents, right? You like immortalize them from the beginning.
Yeah,
they know everything. Anytime I'm hurt, they help me, they make me feel better. Godlike kind of figure. And then you get into your teens and maybe early 20s and they get demonized, right? It's like, oh, man, this person's all over my ass all the time, and the only reason you had me was to do chores, and you don't know anything. And And then you get to a certain point in your life, usually married,
You would hope, right?
kids.
You would hope.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
That you just get humanized.
Yeah, the
Right?
humility.
Right. Like, when I'd never thought about when my dad was 43 and what he was going through and how he's just trying to figure out life. Right. You don't think about that until you're 43 and you have 2 kids and you and your wife are trying to make it work every day. And you look at each other sometimes and be like, what are we doing? And the answer back to you is like, I have no idea. Right. My kids will get that day get to that age one day and they'll have kids. And you just want to be like, it's hard, right? And they're just trying to figure it out every day while protecting us, while sending us to school, while making lunches,
Right.
like that humanization aspect is the one that finishes that cycle, right? So I've learned that about my father. And unfortunately, after he passed, right, because I was 28.
Yeah.
So we had a good I don't have any regrets of the relationship I had with my father when he passed. We were in a good spot. We talked a lot.
Well, you wouldn't feel as sentimental as you do if you were not as close.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's genuine.
Yeah.
It's my guy.
You mentioned he had a creative aspect to it. What were some of his creative outlets if it was in the shop, but I don't know if it was in the shop.
Yeah, I don't think he really pursued that much, because it was suppressed. It was before I got to see something. He was handy. He always liked working with his hands. He liked making stuff. He liked fixing stuff. God, there was never a repair guy at our store or at our house. I'm the guy shaking, holding the flashlight for every project, from Christmas decorations, cut out the reindeer out of plywood and paint them and put them up, and then your buddy's mom likes them and I'll make you 12 of them too, and it's like what? He needed to be doing something. He liked fishing a lot. He was like into the outdoor aspect of that. We would go power lining on the lake all the time and smelt fishing and ice fishing, and I don't know. I think without saying, he always found ways, outlets to probably try to shake the stress.
Sure.
I'm in the garage. I'm working on the car. I'm building reindeer or whatever. I'm going out fishing.
Yeah.
Those were, he didn't say it, and I didn't think of that like when I was a kid, but that was his stress relief, right? Mm-hmm. Some people go to the gym. Mm-hmm. Some people build reindeer. It's, find what works, because you're going to need to find something.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. And that's that thing about passion is like, even if you're chasing your passion, there will be plenty of moments where you're going to want to walk away.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So when you first came on and you saw the books, what were some of the initial thoughts that you're like, what can I do to turn this around?
Yeah. It was quickly sandwiches.
Okay.
It was quickly sandwiches.
How was the seed planted for sandwiches?
We need to get people in this store.
Okay.
I don't think we have a shot to find a way to recompete on the wholesale level.
Okay.
Right? When I said I was going to go into the business, that's halfway through sophomore year. My dad's like, well, you're finishing school. And I was like, I love school. Love it. I had no problem. I wanted to finish school. I love being in school. That wasn't a thing for me. It wasn't a way of me trying to get out of the rest of my schooling. Mm-hmm. But, okay, we're going to start today. And the one thing you're going to do is, your Uncle Paul is 90-some years old. Mm. He's the salesman. You're going to have to start going to see his customers, right? So here's these enormous pairs of shoes to fill.
Sure.
You go see the customers.
What were you guys wholesaling at the time?
Everything, man. Pasta, canned tomatoes, olives, all the deli meats, but in the cases.
And this is imported from Sicily?
Italy, Sicily, Greece, Mediterranean, domestic products as well.
Did you ever get to go there and kind of see where they were actually importing from?
No, not. I mean, I've been there, but not like on a business trip or anything like that. And, again, when I came about, that was kind of towards its ends of things. We didn't have our own, forever we had like our own importing license. When it started, my great-grandpa would go to Italy and Sicily, hand-pick products from manufacturers. His brother would build the boxes to ship it to America.
Wow.
And his brother's business is still around and run by my cousin Giuseppe Graziano, who's fourth generation owner of that business in Sicily still.
Wow.
Right. So it was full hands-on, doing it all your own, literally on a ship right? From back that day, Italy, Sicily to New York, and then rail car from New York to, like, you know, you want to talk about, I got to figure out what I got to post on Instagram. This guy's doing like international logistics.
That's hilarious.
Right? So, you know, by the time I came about, everything was, you would still get stuff from brokers in New York who they had imported it themselves, and then you're buying from them. So it's not like you're buying it fourth, fifth hand. But the relationships we had was because we'd been doing business with people for 30, 40, 50 years. Yeah. Right? But it wasn't a sustainable model that I was like, well, this is what I'm going to do the rest of my life. This is how
like it was getting too saturated.
Yeah. I mean, you know, once your competition is U.S. Foods and Cisco, and you're a, you know, fourth generation family owned mom and pop specialty store,
sure,
there's not going to be a lot of room for you to compete. Yeah. But okay, you know what U.S. Foods and Cisco doesn't have is this incredible building that looks like it's straight out of the 30s still, and everybody that walks in this door takes a deep breath of the spices, because that's really that scent that you get, because we used to sell those bulk spices in front, you know, 100 pounds of cayenne, crushed red pepper, marjoram, basil, oregano, whole black pepper, cracked black pepper, 28 mesh, ground black pepper, everything. That stuff is permeated into the brick. That's the smell of Graziano's when you walk in, and people would they wanted to come in the store so bad. They just didn't think they could, you know?
Yeah.
Like, unless you were going to buy 3 cases of pasta and a form of cheese, I probably shouldn't go in there, which they were right, because, you know, Grandpa, Uncle Paul would yell at people when they wanted a bag of pasta and be like, get out of here, you know? Where I was like, why don't we sell to these people?
Yeah.
You know, I think you could charge more when you sell a bag versus a 20-pound case. And they're interested. I've never, you know, why are we telling people to leave?
Yeah.
We need those people to put shoes on our feet, you know? So I was always like, if something's going to happen, it's going to happen within these 4 walls.
Okay.
Right? This is home base. This is cool. This street is awesome.
Yeah.
You know, how do we get people in the door? Well, let's feed them, right? And we sell all the best products, because they were and still are, to all these places. Well, instead of selling them a case of salami, why don't we open this up and slice it and throw it on some bread and try to sell them lunch?
So you were wholesaling meats too?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Prosciutto, salami, capicola, everything that we use. You know, we were distributing. The sign's still on our front. I never took that down. Okay. Fiorucci Meats. And that was like, you know, after we did Carando Meats. And it was probably the 3rd or 4th one that we were mainline distributors of.
Okay.
You know, buying direct from them and, you know, getting a 53-foot trailer delivered to your store, and half of that trailer is all your stuff, and pull it off with the forklift, put it on the sidewalk, break it down, put it in the elevator, bring it up, bring it down, put the stock away, and then pick the order, put it on the truck, and go bring it to the customer. That's all I did. All day, every day. Wow. And I was like, I don't know. I really think, what do you know, because people, and you figured I would have taken a business class one time at DePaul. Never. I mean, anything, nothing. I didn't take a thing. By the time I got to my senior year, it was all electives. Right? Because I'm like, get all the hard stuff out of the way, save the easy stuff for last. My senior year, I'm taking like, you know, photography and wine tasting and stuff I like. It could have came in handy, but I also learned by kind of getting thrown into a fire well as well. So, you know, I got it figured out. Not all figured out, far from it, but enough to keep things rolling. And so I just felt like this is what we have that nobody else has. So let's accentuate this. And, you know, instead of buying a case of pasta, buy a sandwich. And for early on, a lot of people did both, you know, because I scraped together the early sandwich shop.
So it was a storefront and a sandwich shop?
It was always a storefront.
It was always a storefront.
Yeah. We did sell to the public. I'm sorry if I'm not being clear on this, but you had to buy, it said wholesale to the public.
Okay. ...
Yeah. It should have said ... if you buy as much as a restaurant does.
Direct to consumer.
Yeah. Families would come in, 4 or 5 sisters, you know, an uncle and 3 kids, whatever. They would buy a forma Romano, 60 pounds. Cut it in 12 pieces for us. We'll take 3 cases of pasta. We'll take 4 cases of tomatoes. We need 10 pounds of oil cured olives, but I want 5 2-pound bags. Wow. You know, they're going to put together $1,000 bill. Uncle Paul ain't saying no to that, right? But it was then they, load their truck and they'd split it throughout their family.
Sure.
We didn't sell to the direct
To consumer,
right, in that way. Where I felt, I don't know, a couple of people are starting. This was 2005.
Wow.
I graduated summer 2005, winter 2005, very early on 2006, we were selling sandwiches.
Wow.
Yeah. And I didn't know what I was getting myself into. We had to get a retail license. I had to cover our natural wood floor.
New flooring, right?
I mean, that broke my heart, still does till today, but you can't have a porous material where you're doing food prep.
Sure.
Understood. I'm dragging my mom and dad to Wright College
I
after
heard
work
about
to
that.
take our sanitation class. My dad's like bringing chunks of cheese for the teacher.
And that's
to try
after a
to
full
get
day's
the
of work.
test. Yeah.
That's amazing. That the willingness to support you on that, and not
That's
just
the
like
thing.
go and get it.
Right.
We are going
like
with
we're coming
you.
with
Yeah.
you. And to get my father to take a test, right, in his 60s.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
He was trying to bribe the teacher with chunks of fontanella and little chunks of salami. But it is Chicago after all.
Yeah,
And, as
yeah.
long as we get to the end point, that doesn't really matter how you got there.
That's amazing.
But yeah, it was full support. And it wasn't, we didn't talk about it. And I don't think that clicked in my head until years later. Like, God, look at what, support without boundaries.
Yeah.
This is what we're going to do. And the belief that my mom and dad put into me, like, this is what we're supposed to be doing, right? I'm the youngest one here. I have the least amount of experience, and you're following me over this cliff, and we don't know where it's going to lead us, right? But my intention was never, let's turn it into a sandwich shop. It was just sell sandwiches. In my mind, the wholesale aspect was never going to go away.
Oh.
How do we just fill some of these gaps
Sure.
financially that is being left by the wholesale business?
Isn't that interesting?
I think so.
The sandwich shop, it boomed, and then did you kind of grow fonder of that over time?
Oh, I love the sandwich shop. Don't get me wrong. I needed to go through a personal revelation that if I cut off the wholesale business, I wasn't ruining the legacy. That's what, I was told officially and unofficially by a lot of people. Like, you got to stop doing the wholesale part of this. And I should have done it probably
In the
a year
sense
and
of
a
like it's
half.
not worth your time anymore?
You're throwing good money after bad.
Gotcha.
You found a way to make money selling sandwiches. Stop buying a pallet of tomatoes with it. Go buy a new cooler. Hire somebody. And I just felt like if we don't do wholesale, the legacy of JP Graziano is gone.
Yeah.
That's all I knew us as. That's how I felt the city of Chicago knew us as. That's how our customers knew us as. You're going to stop selling all of this. You're going to sell your truck, right? And you're going to support your family off of sandwiches. Yeah. Shout out to my old CPA who said that couldn't be done.
Oh.
And I said,
Okay.
watch me. I sent him one return a couple years later.
Oh, wow.
Of soul sandwiches. Yeah. Tell me it can't happen. I'm not, it's not a challenge, but again, I like that. Watch me. And and we do.
Yeah.
Pretty well too.
Right.
But it's never over. Like there's never anything to hang your hat on and be like, that's it, man, feet are up. Hands are up, and we can now just enjoy it. Mm-hmm. When you get to that is when it starts to fall through the cracks and slip through your fingers, I think.
Right.
You have to wake up with that edge
in every sense of the word, from like the consumers can sense it, your team can sense it, and you can't let up off the gas.
I don't care what you sell. It's blind to industry. Just never stop. Right? And then I think you're always going to be okay. But eventually, there was one customer, you would think I would use like data analytics and stuff like that. I'm still just a gut feel guy, what's right and what's not. There was a customer of ours, long time customer of ours. And he knew, his grandpa did business with my great grandpa, but he knew my grandpa and Uncle Paul, Uncle Larry, my dad very well. And he knew I was going through a lot at that time. And he's like, listen, I've known every guy that's run this spot. They don't care what you're selling inside these four walls. What they care about is the name on the outside of this building. And not only that, that you're supporting your family with what you do here. That's the legacy of Graziano's. Next morning, I never ordered one more thing of wholesale. Let it be done.
Yeah.
Drain it all down, take that money to a remodel of the store, buy another cooler, actually buy a slicer this time. My first one came from a guy that owed us money and, couldn't pay us. And I said, that's okay.
Wait. How much time went between not having a slicer and the slicer? What? Are you kidding me?
Yeah, I mean, we didn't have it. We didn't slice stuff. You bought cases of stuff from us.
What about when you first started making sandwiches, though?
Well, yeah, by that time I got a slicer.
Okay.
Yeah. But I'm saying building the equipment, while my dad said, yeah, go do whatever you got to do,
Sure.
he's like, you have zero budget.
Okay.
We have no money to get any of this
Right.
done. So you go see your customers and this guy's like, I'm going to close up and blah, 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 blah. And all right, well, you have, open invoices with us, but instead of finding a way to pay me, which you're probably not going to get that money anyway, and if you do, maybe 50% of it and maybe 90 days down the road, I'll take that cooler off your hands. I'll take that slicer. I'll take that slotted spoon.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, that's how that
Do
original sandwich shop
kind
was
of work like that
piecemealed
these
together.
days at all?
Maybe. Yeah. Yeah.
Why not, right?
Go hustle. You
Yeah.
could figure anything out.
Yeah.
I steam cleaned the first prep cooler that we had because it was in really rough shape.
Sure.
And power washing the thing.
Yeah.
I had no budget.
Yeah.
I needed it.
How
Go
did,
figure
how
it
did
out.
How did you come up with the first couple iterations of the menu? Is it
it's-
things that just you personally enjoy? Or?
Yes, I mean, it wasn't I'm not a classically trained chef by any stretch of the imagination. An Italian sandwich has provolone, salami, gabagool, mortadella, lettuce, tomato, vinegar, oregano. What else are you going to put on an Italian sandwich, right? We started with 6. Italian, turkey, American, spicy, prosciutto, and the veggie. Those were our first 6 sandwiches. Handwritten, taped to an A-frame sign out on the sidewalk that I got a ticket from the city for having not knowing that you couldn't put a sign on the city sidewalk. Oh yeah. And guys would run into the store past my new little sandwich counter to do business with my dad and then be like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Selling sandwiches. Would you like one? Yeah, make me 2 and go do business with my dad and then grab the 2 sandwiches out the door and then poke their head in the next day and be like,
That was
still
fire.
making those sandwiches? Yeah. Humble beginnings, man.
Was there a point where you felt like you knew you were onto something? Was it pretty fast or was it right away?
Ish. Not at the volume and the level that we've done, but I knew one time I walked out from behind the counter and there was a city worker, a cop, and a businesswoman, like 3 in a row in line. And I was like, man, I've always been told if you can feed city workers and cops, you're onto something. And not only did we do that, here's a lady who's in business. She gets it too. I think we're onto something. It wasn't all right, we did it, but it made me feel like this can be done.
Mm-hmm.
And it also helps to be on like the hottest corner of the hottest street that absolutely turns around and becomes what Randolph Street is known today, right? I'm very conscious of what I've done. I know what I did. Believe me, it's taken years off the end of my life to get to where we got. But
Sure.
I'm not going to discount that I was also born to the family that owned property at 901 West Randolph. Like, you got a really good big head start. Now, 901 West Randolph wasn't desirable until the West Loop became the West Loop. And you got to, stay relevant and make the right moves, but that really helps. Not to sound any sort of way, but people have reached out to me about like consulting and how do you do this? And I'm an open book with everybody.
As far as what, small business?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like a guy just starting out, pizza shop, hot dog stand.
Nice, okay.
Nothing crazy. Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
But I'm very transparent. Be like, not only am I going to tell you everything I know how to do and where to get certain stuff and who to avoid, because that's sometimes very valuable information as well. But, I also never started from 4 white walls. I was given an incredible story, those guys didn't know they built a brand for me, but an incredible brand. I was given all of that, Does Jim Graziano make it if he starts with 4 white walls and no story and in the middle of Schaumburg?
I don't know. I mean, with what you know now,
Maybe not.
but it's the starting point that sets the tone, I think.
Yeah.
I think I've met a lot of people that are trying to teach other immigrants how to create generational wealth, and a lot of that is actually through real estate.
Sure.
And owning a business and things like that, and helping people maybe going from street vendors to legitimate, LLCs.
Brick and mortar.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a lot. So, but listen, I don't feel bad for who I was born to.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
Right.
I grabbed it and I ran hard with it.
Right.
But all those, it's like anything else. It's never one thing. It's a mixture of a lot of things coming together at the right time, seizing opportunity, seeing it. Putting your head down, putting in the work, go 1,000 miles an hour, break it, fix it.
It feels like a series of sprints.
It's a good way to put it. I don't think I've ever thought of it like that, but yeah, it is. Because you never know what's going to come across your desk.
Got to stay ready.
Always.
Yeah.
The only time I'm nervous is when things are going very smooth, because something's coming around the corner. It's never no problems, but you get a little bit more savvy in how to approach it. It's like, all right, I'm going to have to put in some work, and I know in a couple of weeks we'll get past it, and you won't have to think about it for a while, and you experience life experience, right. Man. It's you get more confident in your abilities to handle it, and then you could apply some problem solving tips that you learned on the last one to this one, and maybe it's kind of coming across looking a little bit different, but at its heart it's the same type of problem you've dealt with before, much like as in life, up, down, left, right. The only direction that matters is forward. Right? And somebody very smart told me this not long ago. That's why your windshield is the size that it is and your rearview mirror is the size that it is in your car, because you're supposed to be looking a lot more that way than that way. Learn from the past, obviously, but don't take too much time looking at that past, because it's all in front of you. And that's kind of how I approach it.
Tell me about the first time you did a catering order at the Board of Trade.
John Cagney, my guy, he's still a customer of ours. I won't charge him for a sandwich. He gets so mad at me, but I was like, John, you turned me on, man. John Cagney, his family shopped for us forever. His grandma used to take him in when he was a kid, and
wow! So he goes back.
It's multi-generational, family,
okay.
no doubt. And just seated at the Board of Trade. He owned a restaurant that we supplied. He was good buddies with my dad, and he walked in. It was early January or February, in 2006, maybe a little bit before, because it was Christmas time, because he was buying like bacala, like salt-cured codfish and panettone. He was buying Christmas stuff. And same thing, what are you doing? I'm making sandwiches. And he's like, do you deliver? And I'm stone-faced. Absolutely. We deliver. Never made a delivery in our life. It's like, absolutely, John. I told you, it's a sandwich shop here now. And and he's like, I order sandwiches for 40, 50 guys, lunch, 40, 50 guys a day. I'm going to call you tomorrow. And he did. And that was like a week's worth of sandwiches for us at that point, and call over at D'Amato's and I need more bread. Run over to Grand Avenue, come back, and, salami slicing everywhere, and you make the sandwiches and you get them in a box and you throw them in the car, and then I don't even know where the Board of Trade is, right? And then it's
MapQuest.
Yeah, it was MapQuest. I mean, there was no pulling out an iPhone. And I got to the Board of Trade, and he handed me a week's worth of money to me at that point. And it felt like, see? There's something here. I know it, And call back the next day, same order. And the company next to us saw us eating from a new spot. Can you do 50 sandwiches for them as well? No problem at all, John. See you in 45 minutes, And that was our start. And there's nothing that I have done there. I don't want to sound like a bad business owner, but I've always kind of like let the business grow out in front of you, and then you catch up to its point, and then let it run out in front of you, and then you catch up to its point, When there was the demand for delivery, I figured out how to do delivery.
Yeah.
When there was a demand, when people kept coming in and being like, I'd really like to order this on my phone before I get here, then I figured that part out. Like, because I'm not.
Because the other perspective is build it and they would come.
Right. But, how do we know they're going to come?
That's the saying. It's just like you build it and they will come.
Yeah, I'm not trying to put you at a spot, but I'm just saying, like, and it's and I didn't think like that. I didn't think we need to figure out delivery. We need to figure out, are we going to be on a platform? We need to figure out a way. Like, I was just trying to take care of that.
Sometimes business is so good that you don't have time to think about what the competition's doing.
Yeah, well, I was more like, before the business got so good, it was like, I got to dig out of this hole. So my head is buried in it, and I'm not even paying attention to what anybody else is doing.
Right,
I just know if last week I sold 40 sandwiches, if this week I sell 50, we're going in the right direction.
Right.
I know that file in my office is getting smaller to the people that I owe money to. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Joseph Antonioli. Old school people are going to know this name right away. They were distributors, and they sold Pagliacci. They sold everything, but Pagliacci was their brand. It was like it means clown in Italian. They sold giardiniera. They sold everything, tomatoes, the whole deal. I was walking through that guy's warehouse when I was like 12, making a pickup there, and he was close to my family, good guy. And he said, "You see everything in here? You know why I'm successful? Is because everything is paid for. And every time I sell a case of tomatoes, that money goes in my pocket." Then I went back to our store, and I was like, nothing here is paid for. But I worked myself to that.
Okay.
Get even with everybody, and then never let a distributor leave without a check. Ever. Because I know what it is to be on the wholesale side of it, chasing your money. I'm going to be a good vendor. I'm going to get myself to even, and I'm never going to get down to where, you had a good month, but you look at that folder, and your good month went away. I'm going to have a good month and not owe anybody any money, right? And he was right. And that guy never took a business class either, I guarantee you. He was right. You got to make it your own first. Do good business with people. Be the honest one. Because when you call up your distributor for something, and they look at your file, and you're paid in full, they're going to take care of you. And then I take care of them. One hand wash the other, both hands wash the face. That's where that comes true, right?
Yeah.
And you keep your name clean. That was on great grandpa's deathbed to my father. Skritaka, right here.
Oh, wow.
Never disrespect the name. Came here with nothing. And what I'm leaving with is a clean name. Don't you mess it up.
Right.
It's going to make an impression on you when that guy doesn't wake up the next day.
Right.
And at 9 years old, and that's drilled into your head every single day. You may roll your eyes at 9, but at 29, man, these guys got something figured out here.
Right.
Right? So I know what the place is. I know what it gets done for, but I've always viewed it as a responsibility that's been passed down to me, not just a business. Responsibility to keep that family name clean, to do business the right way, don't cut the corners, and then take care of who you're supposed to take care of, which is immediately your family, in my case, wife and children, and then down from there, the guys that are every day there running through walls for me, that if their work isn't done, I'm not what I am. We don't sell what we sell, pay them as they should be paid. They have families, they have mortgages.
Yeah.
People in their family get sick. You need a day off. I ain't going to dock you for, like.
Is there anything aside from financial compensation or fair compensation that helps instill that love for how they carry themselves at work?
I think getting off of them. Before I was like, I'm not good at training people, I don't think. I am in a way.
More
I
like
could-
what, lead by example, or
Yeah, lead by example. But like, when you started working for me, it's like, okay, this is how many slices of this go on a sandwich, and this is the order that they get in.
Yeah.
But I was about like, this is what you have to say. This is how you have to react. This is how you.
where you're given more wiggle room now,
Yeah. Now
or
you realize A and Z is what's important. This is where we have
I
to
like that.
start. This is where we have to end. Your B through whatever is going to be different. Why? Right?
Yeah.
Your B through Y is going to be different than mine.
Okay.
But as long as A stays the same and Z stays the same, I'm going to back up and let you do your thing. And once
Yeah.
you start to let people be themselves,
Sure.
once they have a grasp of the important stuff to you,
Right.
let them figure out their B to Y. You set the standard with A to Z. And things get a lot easier when you afford that to people. You're not going to say what I say. You're not going to say how I say it.
Right.
But I know they're going to leave with a top sandwich and walk away feeling that they have value for the money that they spend and good about the experience that they just had.
Right. That's your Z.
That's the Z.
Yeah.
And A is start with the best.
Yeah.
And let them get here there how they get them. And extend the trust. And, I clean bathrooms, man. Like whatever
yeah.
needs, I'm not that, if you don't do it, they ain't going to do it. If you walk past the thing on the floor, they're going to walk past the thing on the floor too. I can't stand when business owners are like, oh, these people are so lazy. Nobody wants to work. Nobody wants to work in the archaic age that you want to run your business and treat them terrible and pay them next to nothing and crack a whip the whole time they're there. But you treat people the right way, pay them an honest wage, and let them be who they are. And watch how many good workers you start to find pretty quickly. And I had to learn that. I'm not perfect. I had to learn that myself too.
Sure. Sure.
I thought you were supposed to yell at the people you worked for. I got yelled at the whole time I was working. I'm being funny, but you know what I'm saying? Like, that mentality is gone, man. You don't get to treat people like dirt and pay them pennies and then tell them they're stupid because they didn't get something done the way you think it should be done.
Right.
Why don't you take a look at yourself before you call other people dumb?
Right.
Because if they don't know how to do something, you're the one that was supposed to tell them. So maybe you need to work on you and not think everybody else needs to work on themselves.
Right.
And I learned that lesson hard, and it took me a long time to figure that out. But when I did, things start to fall into place. And you run with that, and then they don't let you down.
Yeah.
And then, the guy Sean in the front of my store, half the people think he's me or he's my brother. And I take that as an extremely high compliment.
I love that. Yeah.
I love that too, believe me. And all of them. Adrien, Oscar, I hired Oscar the day my dad died.
Wow.
Yeah. He came walking down the street on that big extra wide sidewalk on Randolph Street, and that's why those sidewalks look like they do. And he said, "Do you need any help?"
Oh.
And I said, "Pick up that case and put it on the truck." And even how he said it didn't even click in my head for a while. Do you need help? On the day that I needed more help than I've ever needed. Not are you hiring? Not can I get a job? Do you need help?
Yeah.
More than you know. Pick up that case, put it on a thing, and now he's the one that makes the sandwiches when you walk into the door.
Is there anything that you, like, objectively you can measure when you bring on new team members? Or is it a gut feeling in an interview?
It's both. We don't really do interviews. You walk in. If I'm hiring at that point, I say, show up tomorrow, wear some clothes you might not worry about getting some Jardinero oil on, and we're going to throw you in here. And I really let the team direct the people at first.
Yeah.
And I don't do anything.
There's no pressure, right? It's just like not as
Zero.
much if you weren't lead,
Yeah. In the beginning, there's zero.
Right.
You start with making tuna sandwiches by us. We have found that's a good spot for somebody to start.
Okay.
It's you're not on the slicer yet, right? You do have to make things fresh to order because we make every single tuna sandwich we make is fresh to order.
Nice.
There's a lot of prep involved, dicing up the artichokes, the roasted red peppers, the celery, the onions. So, we see how you would work in a kitchen and if you've been around it because how comfortable you are of sanitary and chopping and stuff like that. And then, understanding like flavor with how much of we're putting in, and it's not a mayo sandwich. It's just there as a binder, and, the cleanliness of putting it together. And when we're changing our gloves, to put on new gloves so
Sure.
the tuna stuff doesn't get on top of the bread, which drives
Or
me
is like,
nuts.
is this person coachable?
And can you take it? And
Right,
then,
right.
and now can you work at our speed and pump the volume that you need to do to work there? One of the guys that I've had recently over the last couple of years, he had a hard time. He was a good dude, sharp, knew his stuff. He had a hard time keeping up speed-wise, right? And I didn't want to lose him. And I said, man, our Tuesday mornings are nuts. It's our first day of our week. We get all our inventory in. We have to break down the whole front of the shop, mop, sweep the whole, obviously you do it daily, but once a week you do the deep cleaner one. And I said, do you want to work here on Mondays? And I'll get all my deliveries in on a Monday, and you'll be beer by yourself. And there's no speed required. It's just by the end of the day, these tasks need to be done. And he said, yeah. And now my guys walk in on Tuesday morning.
That's one, they don't have to do all that stuff.
And all of a sudden nobody hates Tuesday mornings anymore.
Wow.
Because the store is clean. It looks as it should. The stuff is prepped out. And we flick those slicers on and we get right into the catering orders. And then the gentleman is there the rest of the week downstairs. He's always a day ahead of us. Right. So when you need something, boom, it's there. So you start to look at your things differently. I never thought, we got to hire somebody for all the days and times that we're not there.
No.
And then that clicked, and it was like, man, I'm happy to hold on
That's
to
really
a
cool.
guy. It was great.
Yeah, and that's
Changed a
you
lot.
being open-minded.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Maybe also a little bit of, what the hell took you so long? Other people do prep guys, Jim. You didn't come up with a prep guy, right? But for us,
Yeah.
right, it's never been done by us. And then that's the other thing you had to work out of your head. And I was very staunch on early in this process, because I would ask these questions all the time, mostly to myself. Why do we do X, Y, Z? And when the answer was, in a multi-generational family-owned business that's been around a long time, a lot of times the answers to that question is because this is how we've always done it. Mm-hmm. And I made it a mandate. Like, if that's the answer, we're changing it. I don't care what it is.
Or at least find out why.
Nope, we're just going to change it. You're more thoughtful than me. We're going to change it on pure principle.
Yeah.
Because we are not running the same business we've always had. We're running a new business. Right. And this might sound very plain and easy to a lot of people listening to this. I ain't the sharpest guy in the world. You get that sometimes, that perception of your name gets thrown around a lot.
But
you get written up.
it's being the hard worker in the room.
I think so.
Yeah.
And just paying attention.
Yeah.
Paying attention to what needs to be done. And then you go for it. And I will try anything. I am not afraid of a thing. Mm-hmm. Nothing. And it's not as a challenge. I just know we probably can't break this overnight. Mm. So if it feels right, if things line up, if it makes sense with what you are and what you want to stand for, and it agrees with the, generations before you, and you're keeping your name clean, go for it. What's the worst going to happen? Mm-hmm. It didn't work out, and you change it back to what it was, and you figure out another path.
Right.
Don't be afraid. I tell my kids, go 1,000 miles an hour. Mm-hmm. It's going to be hard. It's supposed to be hard.
Anything worthwhile is hard.
Yeah.
Right?
This is how you get better, to put the extra practice in for basketball and soccer and do it, mess up on the test. It's okay.
Yeah.
Try not to repeat those mistakes, and we're going to start to string this stuff together.
Right.
It's
the iterations get better over time.
They do.
One thing, like a quick side tangent that I took away from a previous interview is how you emphasize freshness and high quality. And that's via the slicer, like as the orders are coming in, and you're not pre-slicing for the day.
Right. It's wild.
like it would definitely expedite the process, right? But
but
that's not
is
the
it going
point.
to be the same sandwich?
Right.
And how long do you, if you walk into that door, when you get to the door, sometimes, great days, line stretches outside.
Wow.
When you get to that door, I will tell you within a minute of how long you're going to be in my store. And it's usually 10, 12, maybe. The people in front of us, those are one or two single sandwiches at a time.
Yeah.
The phone, the internet, those are your bulk orders. And we have our whole crew working on that. But I know when that place is humming, and I got Adrina on the slicer, and I got Oscar next to me, and the whole other crew is taking care of that, and I got my sister in the office, you're going to be out of here in 10 minutes.
That is efficient of compartmentalizing roles. That is so efficient.
You can't work at the volume that we do and not have very defined
No.
roles.
I mean, some of the other shops, one person's taking care of one person, and then and they'll take the next order, but not one person on a slicer per se. Yeah.
Yeah. I think you need that. And then, once it gets out of the crazy lunchtime rush hour, different guys slip into different spots and stuff like that. But we have found what works for us. And, these guys just go. And then you also little tricks like every sandwich is, I think it helps us that every sandwich is sliced to order, right? And our sandwiches are sliced in a specific way, then requires no verbal communication between any of those three people up there.
It's seamless.
Because when you see pepperoni on top of a sandwich, that's the spicy. When you see supersata, that's the Mr. G, right? When you see the Genoa salami, that's an Italian. I just have to be there to tell him, no mayo, add Dijon, hot chard, stuff like that. The little, the tincturing that people do with. But I just, when I was setting kind of that system up, the communication with your work is going to be more important than having to talk to each other all the time, keeping everything straight. It's good if you drop the bags. It could be a rough day because they're in order of how they came in and they go out as they got in, and it's clipping and everyone's like, oh my God, you have an amazing memory. How do you remember a sandwich? And you imagine being gifted with a superpower and it's remembering sandwiches of all the superpowers in the world. Mine is, I just know what this guy eats for lunch, right? And I don't know how.
Well, you're paying attention.
I pay attention. The answer when they ask me is, you feed my children. That's how I remember. You're taking care of my family.
Yeah.
I'm not going to forget it. And everybody's like, oh, do I need a number? Do I need his name? No, you don't need anything. You just need to stand in that line, pay my sister at the window, and when you're come walking up, pretty, and I'm not looking for a pat on the back, but at a pretty high success rate, I know what you ordered. But they're staying in line for me, so it helps because it should just follow the bags. Either way,
Very cool.
You just develop that process, and people love it. And then you have those old, the customers that come in once, twice a week, or live around the block that they don't even have to say their sandwich when they walk in. And if I know Judd walks in the door, I know it's an Italian, no tomato, cucumber, onion, hot. And every single guy behind my counter knows the same thing. And people love that.
Yeah.
And we don't do it to show off to them.
No.
We do it because they come so much, you dial it in, but they love that. And then they bring in a friend. And then you do that in front of their friend. And they're like, what?
People like being taken care of.
People like being taken. I like being taken care of. Right?
Yeah.
When I go out to eat, obviously I pay attention to the food just as much as I do the service and stuff. I love that. You should feel good.
Yeah.
You are spending your hard-earned money at that place. You should feel good about, you should be made to feel good. And to me, that's the most important part of what we do. Anybody can make a sandwich.
Yeah.
Not everybody could drive that other aspect home that I feel is more important. That's what's important to me.
So along the same vein of relationships, are there any collaborations that have stood out to you? I just stumbled upon some of the beer collabs that you did from Haymarket and Pipeworks. But like Tripping Billy or even NASCAR, recently as well. It's like, what?
Right. Yeah. They all stand out in their own way. I'll say that. I like working with people. I like sharing ideas. I like having to bend my mind in certain way of how to, because you have to be careful with those in a way too. Because you can't just do anything that comes across, and you can't just, for as much as I want to, just throw Jardinera on anything. It has to make sense, because it's going to come out in the final product.
In the sense of a win-win situation?
And the dish that you're composing, and they win, we win. We both have shine light on each other of our customer bases. We both grow from it and get better from it. You make a little money along the way, and you stay true to who you are.
Yeah.
Some things just don't work.
Yeah, sure.
So they're all special to me, but it's all based on the relationships and how you get to know these people, and their personality comes out in something, and yours does as well. And if you can make something extra delicious, what a bonus. But even non-food related, we did a collaboration with Joe Fresh Goods and Mark Carrots, Freddie Gibbs. That was like one of the coolest nights at my store. We had a live concert of Kai from Gorgon City DJing until 1 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
Blasting music. The side street just packed with people with the biggest smiles on their face, dancing in the middle of the street.
Who would ever thought? It's like a...
Not me.
Like...
not me, right?
Worlds collide.
But when you have those relationships, then it's like one of those things just becomes a conversation over a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
Or Joe shooting me a text message, yo, can I sell a hoodie at your shop at midnight? Yeah. And we're going to put your name on it too. It's like, what? You know what I mean? And then Freddie Gibbs comes to your store after Lollapalooza, and he's running your window.
Wow.
Yeah. Amazing. Right?
I would have never expected an after show at a sandwich shop.
Me either.
And did you make something on the menu or something off menu for that night too? Or
that one was thrown together so quickly, no.
Sure.
But the JFG sandwich was born from that.
Oh.
And I don't think we sold it that night, but not long after we started to. And it's, it's still part of the secret menu.
Oh, very cool.
That we do there. And I don't advertise those things. I don't broadcast those things. I really like to say to people
you gotta know certain people.
I just love that.
That's cool.
The Will Special still gets ordered at my store, and that sandwich is from a place called Riviera on Harlem Avenue, northwest side.
Okay.
Like where I'm from. And then the Will Special is how I came up with the Mr. G. And when somebody walks in and orders a Will Special, I'm like, who do you know? How do you, and we go through that, and I like that stuff. I love that stuff. I love working with other people. I like pushing out of bounds of what we normally do. I love melding flavors, melding cultures.
Yeah.
I love when people are true to what they grew up with, like I am. And food always has a way of connecting.
It's like a shared language.
People, yeah, always. And especially from our beginnings of in that wholesale shop when we sold every spice in the world, every color and ethnicity and race and religious belief walked through our doors. And my dad was an old school guy, and he would be like, listen, all these people look different and talk different, and you're talking to an 8-year-old from Norwich that's never seen anybody look different than them or dress different than them, say anything different than them, right? Mm-hmm. So you're really kind of growing up at a young age with everything that's in front of you. And my father would be like, this is where you shut your mouth and you just listen, right? Because they're very proud of where they came from and why they use this certain product. And I want you to be very proud of where you came from, and they will respect yours if you respect theirs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Heavy words on my dad's mouth at a young age, believe me. And it made a real big impression on me.
Yeah.
And not to go back to bacala, but like that salt cured codfish. We'd sell it to, Jamaicans would come in and they call it saltfish. They don't call it bacala like us.
And they just eat it straight up, or what do they eat it with?
They boil it right. So we soak salt cured codfish. It's as plain as that name says, right? We Italians soak it 4, 5, 6 days and get the salt out of it. Going to reverse the process that they did to cure it. And then we throw it in everything. Pardon me. You make potato croquettes with it. You throw it in a dish with plum tomatoes and Kalamata olives and onions, and you could put that over pasta or just have it on its own. We have a million preparations for it. Just straight up fry it. Jamaicans call it saltfish. They don't soak it. They don't get the salt out. They boil it out. but it goes right into their cooking process. And they would buy like Sicilians and Jamaicans use the same fish. They'd buy the bone-in codfish, like the real old school one. Not a lot of meat on it. The skin is still on it. The spine is still in it, right? And they would chop it up and put it into boiling water and have that take out some of the salt and then peel out all the meat and then do their traditional preparations from it.
Very cool.
I was blown away by it. Like,
How'd you know that, though?
Talking to our customers, right?
Right.
So listening, paying attention. It's a lot of what you do.
Yeah.
You know, your customers will always tell you what they want, even if it's not directly. If you just pay attention, a lot of the answers are there. It's just keying in on it.
Yeah.
And then being, open enough to accept that. And even if it might be different than how you thought it should go,
Yeah.
being able to roll with it. And then always refining and always paying attention and how well is it working and do we need to change anything or are we cool with just marching along how we are? The answers are out there. It's really just paying attention to what you're doing,
right.
And it might be on the other side of the counter too. It might be from your employees of how maybe some operational things should change.
Sure.
I tell these guys, let me know, man. I'm going to be a lot more happy with you that I see you're paying attention to how something can be done better than how I originally set it up.
Yeah.
Again, your XY might be different than mine. As long as we end up at Z, we started at A, I'm down to do whatever.
Yeah.
So you listen. It's a really important part.
Tell me about the online retail shop that you probably owe a lot of credit to your wife for.
Yeah, man, she's really taken it and ran with it. So I was looking at around our store. What do we have that's ours? What do we have that's unique? And maybe not, Jardinera is not a unique product in Chicago, but ours was, right? Because the recipe that we use today dates back to the 50s when my grandpa and Uncle Paul were running the store. And at that time, there was a lady in Cicero that literally made Jardinera in her basement, extension of her house. We sold her spices. We sold her oil. She made the Jardinera, jarred it up, and then we would retail that or wholesale that to our customers. It was Monte Carlo was the brand name back then. And then, it went through iterations and somebody else had the recipe and we bought it back from them because we weren't happy with how they were doing it. And now the manufacturers have been doing it for decades at this point. And I felt maybe we can get this into other people's hands and sell this as an extension of what we do here.
Yeah.
Believe me.
Because you would put on everything, it's like you could put this on everything.
I want to sell you a sandwich all over the country, but that's really not going to work. So what's the next best thing, right?
Yeah.
And then we started doing the muffaletta along with that.
Yeah.
I changed the sizes. I freshened up the label a little bit, and then we started that Shopify page. And in the beginning, it was all run out of the store, right?
Right.
I was still able to get like large deliveries at the store. I had a place to put the stuff. And then as time marched on and we got busier and, I emptied out next door's kind of like warehouse and got a tenant in there, I wasn't able to fulfill the orders anymore on our own at JP Graziano.
Yeah.
Right. But not only had it grown to the point where
in that case, I agree in the sense of like not build it and they will come, right? In the sense of like, I don't know how big this is going to get.
Right.
I'll keep fulfilling it myself until
much as I can.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and it was like, and easier on the books to separate it. Right. So I branched out Taste Real Chicago into its own business, and I was looking for a warehouse, and a lot of them is like, more towards the airport, Elk Grove-ish area.
Okay.
There's a lot of corridors out there.
Yeah,
a lot of huge warehouses that people break off into smaller sizes for you to use and this and that.
Microphone brewing is out there.
Yeah, right. Yeah, something like that. Part of a larger building that you take up a small spot of.
Yeah.
And I was close to signing a lease in Elk Grove, and it had the size and the space and everything that I needed, but I was like, well, who's going to run this thing? So the lady that was helping me, the broker, for the properties, I said, do one more little quick search and use my home zip code. Because where I live, where I grew up, and there's like 2 streets in Norridge/Howard Heights there that have any kind of industrial anything to them, space. And she called me back and she's like, there's something that's going to go live tomorrow. And if you want to come check it out tonight, they're still there. And literally like had pen in my hand to sign a lease somewhere else.
In Elk Grove or somewhere. Okay. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That was kind of the story too with this place.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Things happen as they should happen a lot of times. Yeah. And so I went and I signed a lease that night. And it's, and you could walk to my home from where it's at. And that also coincided with our youngest going into school full time. Now that, got past like kindergarten and all that stuff, or going into first grade, kindergarten, because it was last year. Either way. And my wife, very motivated person. She's like, well, I want to go to, this is going to be the first time she's at home during the day without children in a decade.
Yeah.
I'm thinking like,
what's your life back?
Freedom.
Yeah.
And she's like, no, I want to go to work. Right. To give you an idea what she's made out of. And I said, what about this? And I'm like, this is down the block. Because still up to that point, I was like, well, I can get there back and forth easily. I'm like, why don't you try this out? You'd see why I'm crazy like I am and what it is to deal with this sort of stuff. And, a very close friend of ours that was kind of in the same situation with their kid being in school during the day, want to stay home, close to home or in the neighborhood. And, if my kid gets sick at school, I'm going to have to leave and not get fired. And, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and it works schedule wise for them. And now they run, they run it, man. They don't need me for like the day to day direct to consumer.
Nice.
It's amazing. They do their own inventory. They order what they need. My wife writes the checks for everybody, gets them out, print the label, pack the box, get it to the post office. That's not like on the other side of Harlem, like right there. This place couldn't be better located. I hope they're not listening when lease negotiations come up about how important this spot is to me. But ran with it. And, they're absolutely incredible. And we do wholesale online as well and ship that all over the country.
Yeah.
And then I take care of the local distribution, getting the new customers. And, I make deliveries to the guys that we do business with every week.
Nice.
And I'm happy to. I grew up doing that stuff, making deliveries on a wholesale level. And then that brought me back into the wholesale. And it made me feel good about like that.
How far like kind of full circle in a way,
we didn't
right?
cut off the legacy.
Right.
I'm still doing this, and the name is on the bottle. And then that's the platform for the kids to start to learn what we do, because it's easy to walk to that warehouse. When I grew up at Randolph Street, there wasn't 10 dudes running behind the counters and trying to make sandwiches in 10 minutes, right? It was just wide open and easy. So they will get there at some point when they're a little bit older. They're not going to escape it. I promise you that. But until then, the Jardinera Warehouse is a great platform to start learning all these lessons. Your name is literally on that bottle. And somebody in California just ordered some. And that's how you're going to go to school,
Yeah.
And I know, just let it be drops.
Right.
And then be done with
It's
that.
not like being force fed.
No,
Yeah.
just drop it a lot until they start to roll their eyes at you. Then it got in there. And then in along the course of their life, all that will come out. And the hard work and the dedication and the not stopping and going fast and hard and breaking it and never looking at it as anything a failure. I don't care what they do in their lives. They're going to have my full support and love. But that foundation is the legacy of Graziano, right? And other people share that, and it's wonderful. It's a good one to have. But that's what we're supposed to pass down, right? And my wife, God bless her, is, it's there's a lot going on with us and how long the family business took to flip over. And I've done a lot of interviews, and I don't know if I've ever said this one, right? And I was very close to being done there. When it got to a point where it was wholesale not fully phased out, sandwich shop not fully there, no tenant yet next door, how I
ready to throw the towel in?
Oh, I can't even tell you, man. Business, building, I can't do this.
It's like it's not worth it.
I don't want to stick around and find out. My buddies go to work, they get sick, they stay home, they don't have to think about this on the weekends. stuff, and they all do, right? But it just seemed like such a greener pasture to not have all this crashing down on you. And, if you like that JP Graziano is still around, you should say thanks to my wife, because the response that I got from her after like pouring my heart out wasn't like, oh, it's okay. She's like, get your ass to work and figure it out.
Really?
I'm going to take care of here, the home.
Yeah.
At that point, just our daughter. I got this. Go do it. Get your ass to work. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And in a very loving and caring way, but very direct.
Yeah.
Like, it's not going to be a pity party over here. Mm-hmm. I know it's a lot. And you're a lot to deal with for me too. I'm sure what you still says till today. But I'm telling you, she might not give herself enough credit as she deserves. But she didn't let me wiggle out of it, because she saw that it was gonna happen, I think.
And what if you didn't pour your heart out and you just like threw the towel in?
Right. I don't know.
Oof.
I don't know. And it's hard for me to open up.
Yeah.
Like I'm not that. I'm that. I got it. I'll figure it out.
Right.
It's going to beat me down. I'll throw it all on my shoulders, and I'll just keep going and going and going. But, when you find that person in your life that you could be a little vulnerable with, which is important, very important, and then they challenge you back instead of being like, yeah, go get a corporate job. You know what I mean? You got a good one. That's for sure. So...
feel like when you're at the end of your life, you're not going to wonder what if. You've laid it all out there.
I like that. I hope not.
Yeah.
I don't want to ask myself that. Right? Do it all. Figure it out. Let it be hard. Yeah. You'll get better. You'll be better for it. But a huge thanks to her.
Yes.
Obviously.
Yeah.
I mean, she gave me what I needed at that point. And then when I knew it's like, okay, this is going to be a long, hard road, but I know that home base is set and this is mine. And if I'm going to be here 7 days a week and put into 14, 15 hours, she's not going to be, where you at? And I need this and I need that. Like when you're there, I get it. Go do it. And we're not going to see each other for a little bit. We're not going to talk for a little while, but I know you're doing your thing and I'm going to do my thing. And together we're going to make this all happen. Mm-hmm. And then, it has so far.
Mm. For anyone not from Chicago, can you describe, the makings of Giardinera and the less talked about Muffaletta?
Sure. It's an easier introduction, I think, than most people think, because you are pickling and preserving vegetables. And a lot of cultures have that in many different ways. If we talk Giardinera from Italy, which does exist, but it's not how Chicagoans know it. It's big stalks, like, a carrot cut in 4, cauliflower cut in 8. Huge. They fill the jar. They're enormous. And they're just packed in vinegar, right? Once you cure them, usually in vinegar, because you need that acid, that it stays in the vinegar. The Chicago difference is we then rinse off that vinegar and then pack it with the oil for the preservation method, right? Giardinera means the gardener in Italian, female form. And this is how you got your vegetables through the winter, is by preserving them.
Oh.
So at its basic form, look at kimchi, same thing,
Yeah.
same exact thing. I have always felt.
Was he always a condiment then, or was it just simply vegetables?
Yeah, vegetable. Again, Italian style. You would have that on the plate with like antipasti.
Oh, wow.
Cheeses, salamis, olives, and then the cured vinegar-packed Giardinera.
That's so cool.
The Chicago version, smaller, chopped. Like Giardinera is a rough cut, especially when we're putting it juxtaposed to Muffaletta. That's 1/8 of an inch fine diced. But yeah, it lends itself to be put on top of fill in the blank. Sandwiches, beefs, hot dogs, pizza, burgers, go on and on and I still always feel that there was something with the vinegar and the oil, and it was a very mundane explanation of why we lost the vinegar and did the oil. It's either price or somebody forgot to order something. I know there's an answer there, because what other reason would there be to pack it in the oil? Like the product was already done. And besides cutting it smaller, there's really no reason to, right? But somebody figured out here, rinse off that vinegar. You still get that vinegar bite in it, but you pull that more towards the background, and then you let the vegetables and the, what should be the texture and the crunch to them kind of take over. So, we put it on everything.
And muffaletta is the same. It's just diced at an eighth of an inch.
On everything. Muffaletta traditionally is going to be an olive spread. So I wouldn't say muffaletta is a spawn of giardiniera.
Oh.
I think it was started as more of along the lines of a tapenade,
Okay.
right? That would be like an olive spread.
Okay.
So like for our giardiniera, our muffaletta, there's not quite double the amount of olives, but more olives that are in our giardiniera.
Oh.
But then the very easily spreadable 1/8 inch dice that makes it more like a spread.
Okay.
And a lot of people prefer that maybe for sandwiches because it stays right there.
Yeah.
So, and also, muffaletta has Sicilian roots tied to it with the muffaletta sandwiches from New Orleans. That has a huge Sicilian population started by the Lupo family with the muffaletta sandwiches and the muffaletta peppers, something I've always loved. I was never able to really find one that I completely loved, so I would make our own. And we would chop up mild giardiniera.
Yeah, I don't see it too often on the
You don't see it a ton. Well, it's like you don't see giardiniera in New Orleans.
Oh.
You see muffaletta.
Oh. Okay.
Regional differences and stuff like that. But I pulled it in is because it was successful for us. I was looking for like a special for Mardi Gras and Fat Tuesday and, knew about the muffaletta sandwich. And, thankfully we have D'Amato's Bakery that when I call them up for something, I think they've already did that one, but they're always, happy to try to take care of what I'm looking for. They make an incredible muffaletta bread, easy with the delicious meats and cheeses, sliced fresh to order. And then like that signature muffaletta topping that is a little different than most because of that vinegar kind of aspect, because it's still made as the giardiniera, just extra olives in the small diced.
Gotcha.
Right? So that's kind of our little wrinkle on it.
Cool.
And it's delicious. And I mean, for as much of a purist that I am and like a traditional guy, you'll see me putting on the muffaletta a lot more than the giardiniera.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
On sandwiches specifically, just because sometimes it sits so nicely on there.
Yeah. It's not falling off.
It's not falling off, but like it. I
don't mind the falling off giardiniera either. I'm just like,
of course. But like muffaletta, I don't think goes good on a pizza. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? The giardiniera is still the most classic, like star of the show, even on like a hot dog.
Yeah.
And aesthetically, sometimes the muffaletta could be a little off-putting.
It's a spread.
It's a spread.
Yeah.
It doesn't look all that, the giardiniera, you got all the beautiful chunks of vegetables and the vibrant color and the cauliflower and the carrot and the red bell pepper and the green serrano. That chard, baby. I absolutely love it.
To close out, what do you think are the new set of tools that you're going to have to utilize if you're interested in going to the next level to take you to that next level?
Well, what's the next level?
It's whatever you want it to be.
Right. I think like that, as in success, you get to define your own.
Yeah.
I don't have some like grand plans of expansion. I'm not about like a multi-unit thing.
Yeah.
The next level to me is growing the giardiniera business, right?
And you guys do beef as well, right?
Yes, but not all the time.
Oh, okay.
They're coming back quick though. So for our night window,
gotcha.
Which will be opening tentatively planned right now, second week of April.
But through the retail shop, I thought I saw beef on there.
We have a roast beef sandwich.
Oh,
I sourced that roast beef.
Oh, okay.
You may have seen a beef sandwich on a menu, and I don't mean to be confusing to people, especially who don't know us. But our Italian beefs, like the hot, legit Chicago-style hot Italian beefs. We do make them our own, but it's only served at our nighttime window.
Oh, I thought you can get. Yeah, I thought you were shipping these.
That's the beef kit.
That's
beef kit.
What is that?
That's a bottle of peppers and then a bottle of Italian beef seasoning for you to make beefs at home.
Ah, so there's no
Or-
actual beef in there.
There is no actual beef in there.
Gotcha.
And that, you know, like, again, it was like dry, shelf-stable product. We
Gotcha.
can get into the warehouse, no extra refrigeration, figure
Yeah.
out, you know, shipping and dry ice and insulated.
Yeah. Maybe that's the next level, right?
Maybe. But I like that people get to do it on their own,
Yeah.
right? Like, you should go buy the beef fresh. I don't want you buying it through the mail.
That's yep.
You know,
That's valid.
and
Yeah.
nothing against anybody else.
Yeah.
You know, there's old companies that, but I don't know. But to me, it was, how do we make this accessible?
Right.
My job is to get them the flavors. I want you to join in making this and having that experience.
Yeah.
And some people will look at me and be like, you know, it's made in a slow cooker, and it kind of comes out, you know, like the beef falls apart instead of like sliced on a slicer. And I said to that person, I said, well, you know, the slicer that you have at your home. And he's like, well, I don't have a slicer at home. I'm like, neither does anybody else, but I bet you got a slow cooker. And if you're in the middle of Nebraska, the important part is the real authentic flavor, not that it's sliced instead of fall apart meat.
Which is what you're providing.
Right.
Gotcha.
Right.
That's cool.
Taste real Chicago. That's where that comes in.
Okay.
Right. That works as a sentence, and then that works as 3 individual words, either way you want to say it. So that was a way of like, we can get this all across. We don't have to worry about all these crazy extra steps and, you know, the liability of shipping fresh meat and stuff like that. It's a chuck roast, man. You know, the Italian beef isn't made with some fancy, hard to source.
Right.
Grab a chuck roast,
Yeah.
chop it up, throw it in the thing, heat up some beef broth and the Italian beef seasoning, throw that in there with the peppers, and then 8 hours later, you're eating as close as you can get to authentic Italian beefs. I don't care where you're at in the country. And, you know, we also ship into Mexico and Canada, Europe, a lot of Army bases we do.
Oh, nice.
You know, those
Okay.
are fun things for those
Yeah.
guys to grab. Always
Especially
love seeing
from
that
Chicago,
pop out.
you miss home, you know, and
Yep.
if you can get some of the aromas or flavors there.
And
with
not
it.
only that, you have very proud Chicagoans that always want to let everybody else know
Yeah.
how our stuff is.
It can be as weird as Malort, or it can be Chardonnay.
Right. But we're proud, you know, Chicago's a proud town, rightfully so. And they love to share that
Yeah.
with their friends and family as well. And so it's always a thing, you know, we don't ship a lot in Illinois, man. I tell you, everything's done outside of this state. I mean, there's some here, but, you know, we have a pickup option on the website as well. So we get a lot of, you know, especially when we do online only sales, people will order it online to take advantage of the sale, but then be able to come and pick it up at our store and grab a sandwich, obviously, when they're there as well. You know, but my whole idea was, how do we spread this? How do we spread the good word of Giardinera and all these
Yeah.
flavors? And you know, I knew Chicago was going to be excited to not only, if you're a transplant, be able to get it where you're at, that you're probably not going to find, or share it with family and friends that, you know, maybe they came to visit you and they loved the meal that they had, and,
Yeah.
you know, where can I get that Giardinera stuff? And then, you know, package delivered right
Now
to
that
their
we're
door. They're
talking
very
about
happy.
it, I picked up a shaker from JT's Genuine.
JT, Chris, my guy. Yeah. And then you get it, you know, and then you find it in like maybe a little unexpected place like that,
Yeah.
you know, and then credit to him, right? There's another sandwich shop owner,
Right.
supporting another sandwich shop owner,
Yeah.
selling my products in his store. You know, we did a great collaboration together. It's good people, man. I love Chicago so much. The people are they're just real.
Right.
It's all I ever want. I think that's all anybody ever wants. I don't care what industry we're talking about. They want real. I don't care if you're buying a car, a sandwich, EMT training.
Yeah.
People just want real experience. I don't mean to drag this out, but we were at Complex Con when I was in Chicago.
Nice.
Another normal place to find a old school Italian sub shop, right? Greg and Jason from the Times, my guys. And I was like, what am I doing here, man? You know, right, Joe Fresh Goods, he's there selling these shoes. Lefty tagging up a El Camino You know, all these guys, Waka Flocka, rolling a blunt. What are we doing here? Authenticity. That's what I got out of that. People want a real experience. And that's what we naturally provide to people. And then it becomes like a badge of honor. Like, well, man, people look at us for what's real and authentic, right? And that's when I'm happy that it doesn't have to rely on how smart I am. It's share the story that's been created for you. Because that stuff that started in 1937 has not gone out of style 87 years later, even more so in today's culture, when the line of what's real and authentic could be blurred, sometimes on purpose. When you get it, when you see it, you feel it.
Yeah.
Right? Like that feeling I want for people to walk in my store. You might not be able to put your finger on it. You might not be able to verbalize it in a sentence. But, man, it's that indescribable feeling. And I think that's what Chicago does as a whole, and that we're able to, like, get a little slice of it on our corner. It means a lot to me.
I love that. Beautiful said. Beautifully said. Where can people find you if you want to be found, Jim?
Yes, I would love to be found. So if you want a sandwich and you are local to Chicago, 901 West Randolph. That's the physical location of our sandwich shop. We are there Tuesdays through Fridays, Tuesdays through Saturdays, 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. And then tasterealchicago.com is where we sell our Giardinera beef kits, Giardinera seasoning. And as I said, we ship all over the country, including Canada, Mexico, parts of Europe, Army bases, and like that. The catering side for JP Graziano, it's jpgraziano.com. So we do a lot of office buildings, a lot of deliveries, a lot of catering, and then individual sandwiches. You don't just come on in the store. So I'm an easy guy to find.
Yeah.
I'm behind that corner, you know. My crew works longer hours than me, to their credit, but you know, those Tuesday through Fridays from 11 o'clock to 2:30, I'm behind that counter. I love that spot more than anything, and talk to every single customer that walks in the door. It was my early lesson early on of every single person in front of you. You approach a little bit differently, and what you say to one isn't going to work with the next. And it's, you know, that rapid on top of one another and then figuring it out as it comes. And I love people having a smile on their face, man. You know, I don't care what you do for work, it's hard. And that lunchtime break sometimes is the only deep breath during the day. And you're going to come to my shop. And you may have had the worst day in the world, or like the worst email just that came across your desk, and you walk into my door and there's me. How you doing? You know what I mean? And it's cool to be able to provide that. And that's like you provide that to every single person. But it's you know, people don't get a lot of free time.
Yeah.
And when they choose to give it to you, go ahead and make it worth their while, because they're going to feel really good about that. And they tell their friends, they tell their family, they tell their coworkers, and that's how we roll on and roll on and roll on. You know, 87 years worth so far. Got a long way to go yet. I just try to have fun with it, do the right things.
Yeah.
You know, make the right moves.
As cool as going viral can be, word of mouth has always sustained us long term.
It's the most important.
Yeah.
You're going to share good or bad with the people closest to you.
Yeah.
You're going to get it one way or another. So, and you rely on that. You rely on that. We don't have one of those tip things on our register.
Mm-hmm.
I can't stand that stuff. You know, like you go to grab something, they're like, bam, what's the tip? You ain't done anything yet. Asking for the tip. Yeah, but a lot of people ask, you know.
How do you tip?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You know, and we tell them to take care of the boys in front. They'll appreciate it. You give it to them. I want them to know it comes from you. Stuff like
I
that.
love that.
And they're like, I don't got no cash. You know, and it's like, it's the best tip that you can give us is to come back. That's the best tip. I ain't worried about $5 on one transaction. I need to be in business in 5 years. Always look down the road. Come on back. It's always the best tip you can give us at JP Graziano. Tell a friend. Come in with somebody else next time. It's the best tip you can ever give us.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Appreciate you, Jim. Thanks
I
for the time.
appreciate
Thanks for
you.
sharing some wisdom and experiences. I know your dad's looking down.
There's no
Proud.
doubt. I appreciate that. It means a lot to me, and thank you for taking your time out of your day to have me here as well.
Yeah. Everyone else, thanks for tuning in. Till next time, stay curious.